Hello everyone, this is Tetrafolium. I'm here today to talk about Stall in ADV. Stall is a very rewarding archetype for those of us with the patience to engage deeply in this rich metagame's defensive interactions. Okay, enough of that. That was what was that? That was given like BKC on some melatonin levels of excitement. Sorry, I'm not here to slander BKC. He is probably one of the greatest ADV players of all time, one of the greatest minds in the metagame, so I apologize if I came off as insulting with that comment. But here we're going to talk about Umbreon, who is going to act as an introduction to ADV Stall. For those of you who are not so familiar with it, I'll be honest, it's not the archetype that I'm the most familiar with or the most comfortable playing, but it is nevertheless a very important one to learn, especially if you're going to do like tournaments, if you want to be in the next big name in Revival, you better learn this archetype here. So that's what I'm trying to acquaint myself with, actually. So yeah, pump the brakes. Do not leave the video. I swear that this is going to be good for all of us to learn. All right, here's Vapakuno's viability rankings as we start off every one of our ADV discussions. We do not see Umbreon in the D tier or higher rank, so we're going to fish into the E rank, and we see it actually does exist towards the bottom there at number 53. It's kind of low, and low-key might be underrating it a little bit. Let's see what our good buddy AVR has to say about Umbreon. He actually puts it at number 27, above the likes of Charizard, Moltres, Medicham, and of course Salamence, who's floundering at the bottom of this tier list. What does AVR have to say about Umbreon? He says it is the best Pokemon for trapping Gengar, basically due to its ability Synchronize, punishing Gengar for going for Will-O-Wisp. Wish Protect is a good set, and Umbreon walls things like Zapdos and Mixments pretty well. Charm is a cute option if you want to help yourself out against Snorlax, and you would, ABR would use it with a Spinner and one of Spikes or Magneton. I hope that my translation isn't like messing with you here, but I want to make it clear what ABR is trying to say for those of us who are not as familiar with all the shorthands that Pokemon players use. But I will note that when ABR says that Umbreon is the best for trapping Gengar, I think he legitimately means that it is better at trapping Gengar than Tyranitar is. And I think there's a pretty decent argument for that, but that is a little bit of a hot take. I don't think most people think of other Pursuit trappers in the tier other than Tyranitar, so let's actually take a look, start our discussion with Pursuit trapping in ADV. So, those of you who have played ADV, who have played DPP, who have played Black and White, you're probably very familiar with Pursuit because it's a huge part of all of these metagames. But for those of you who are coming from Gen 9 and you don't have the pleasures of knowing what Pursuit trapping is, Pursuit is a move that when the opposing Pokemon switches out, so let's say I have Tyranitar and you have Zapdos or something on the lead, pretty common lead matchup, and as the Tyranitar player, I say, I know you're going to switch your Zapdos out to Swampert to better take my perceived physical Tyranitar. But I want to get damage on Zapdos, so I'm going to use Pursuit, and if the Zapdos switches out, you'll hit the Zapdos, not the Swampert. And it'll do double damage if you manage to get that. In this generation, as well as in, I believe, generations 2 and 4, if a switch happens and Pursuit KOs the Pokemon that is switching out, then the turn plays out as per normal. In future generations, if a Pokemon faints, you will have an opportunity to change your mind, which is really good for Pokemon that are unpredictable with their Pursuit. It would be really interesting in this tier because Tyranitar is so commonly run as a physical Pokemon that the presence of Pursuit on its set would change pretty dramatically which Pokemon you should be switching into to handle this Tyranitar. You know, Pursuit Tyranitar might have HP Grass and a lot of special attack investment to punish a Swampert coming in. In that case, Blissey would be a lot better at taking it on, but also vice versa. If you don't know that the Tyranitar is special, then Blissey's not good at taking it on at all. So here's a little GIF, I don't know how you say it. I'm going to say GIF. That demonstrates what happens when you use Pursuit on a Pokemon that is switching out. I took this from the first YouTube video I could find that was that could demonstrate it in the search. So they came up with this very small YouTuber Charmander Battles. I don't know if they still make content, but maybe give them a try if you're looking for some teams and games from a little bit before I started playing ADV. So maybe they know what they're talking about. I'm not sure. But Pursuit in Generation 3, Generation 2 as well, is a special move. Not just in its effect, being the only thing that can hit something that is switching out, but because there's no physical special split, and Pursuit is a Dark type move, Pursuit is by default special. This kind of hurts some would-be great Pursuit trappers like Tyranitar, Metagross, and Scizor, which you will commonly see these Pokemon and others like them, like Weavile, using Pursuit in later generations because it's really good at hitting things that they might struggle to hit otherwise, and also punishes defensive Pokemon, particularly with low physical defense like Blissey, from switching out against them. Now, there's a little asterisk here in that there is a Pokemon, Houndoom, who actually really likes it that Pursuit is a special move. Getting Stab and using its much higher special attack stat is really nice for it. But we're talking about Pursuit here, but like, what is the utility that we're going to get out of this? Who are we going to Pursuit trap? Well, the first one that comes to mind is Ghost types. Ghost types are really, really important in ADV because they stop the only form of hazard removal, which is Rapid Spin. Because Rapid Spin's a normal type move and it does not clear the hazards if it fails, Ghost types can come in, and because they're immune to normal type moves, i.e. Rapid Spin, the Rapid Spin will not get rid of the hazards. That was pretty long-winded, honestly, for something that I feel like is pretty simple, but again, I just want to be thorough in case we have people who are not so familiar with how this tier works. There's no Defog, there's no Tidy Up, there's no Mortal Spin, so keep that in mind. I have a star there next to Gengar because Gengar is by far the most common Ghost type used in the format. It's the only OU ranked Ghost type, but Pursuit is perfectly fine at trapping Misdreavus, Dusclops, Banette as well. Shedinja is there. I mean, it's a pretty niche Pokemon, but what is kind of nice about Pursuit is it guarantees that you will kill Shedinja, because Shedinja often runs Protect and Baton Pass to get out of bad situations, but if you are faster and you're clicking Protect, or excuse me, if you're clicking Pursuit, then Shedinja can't do anything to get around that, so that's pretty nice. We also have common spinners, Starmie and Claydol. They're both Psychic type, so they don't love to get hit by a Pursuit. You can kind of try to bait them into switching, although both of them have pretty decent matchups into many of the common Pursuit trappers, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So they're not so incentivized to switch. Like, for example, against Tyranitar, both of them have super effective stab that they would like to click. So they're not very commonly going to switch out, but you could get them. And I note these ones over other Psychic types. I mean, well, for one, because Celebi has a lot more resilience against special attacks due to having better stats than Starmie and having a recovery move, which Claydol does not have. I guess it has Rest, but it's not a great recovery move in situations where you're wanting to get away from a Pursuit Pokemon. In any case, another class of Pokemon are any Pokemon that's weakened and will die to any hit. It's not super duper common that Pokemon are going to live on low HP sturdy. While it does exist in this generation, it does not do what it does in modern gens, where it will allow you to survive a move that would otherwise knock you out, like the Focus Sash effect. There's also not a Focus Sash, so even if it did exist, I don't think Focus Sash would be used very commonly because Tyranitar ruins all of the sashes. I guess unless you're sand immune, but I digress. But this is really, really key because there are a lot of times that players can use a weak Pokemon to generate momentum by sacking them or sacrificing them. You can sack to steal your opponent's turn in this generation, which is really, really good. And then go to a Pokemon that has a good matchup, which could possibly be game losing for the person who was once in a pretty good position. A Pursuit Trapper will negate that ability, or the ability for your opponent to do that sort of thing. So your late game sweeper is going to be a little bit better because they can't steal momentum away from you. As for who would use Pursuit, this is not a comprehensive list of every Pokemon that gets Pursuit, but this is the list of all the UUBL ranked or higher Pokemon that get Pursuit and have a usable special attack stat. I mean, I know I see Slacking there, and that's not a Pokemon you think about as having a usable special attack stat, but it's base 95, which is the same as Metagross, so keep that in mind. Here's the damage that all of these Pokemon deal to a defensive Gengar. Defensive Gengar is a very common set, and one of the Pokemon that is the highest value to Pursuit Trap. And all of these damage rolls are assuming that all of these Pokemon are max special attack investment just for the sake of it. I'm not going to go through all of what if they have no special attack investment, or what if they run a minus special attack nature, because forget all that. All you need to know is that comparatively speaking, the dark types deal more damage than the other Pokemon, which, I mean, that kind of makes sense, right? Stab is a really, really big boost, but like Umbreon, who has a mere base 65 special attack, actually, I think it's base 60. I might have misspoke there. Let me check just to make sure. It's actually base 60 special attack. You would think that the guy who's deciding to make a video on Umbreon would have this stuff memorized, but alas, I do not. Sceptile, I believe, has a special attack stat of 105, which is considerably higher than 60, but the stab boost makes up a huge amount of the difference here. So let's take a look at these dark types since they have such a strong pursuit. I'm going to list the pros and cons of each of them, weighting them sort of like vacuously, or I should say in a vacuum. I don't think vacuously means that. Here's Houndoom. Of the three, it has the best special attack stat at 115. As you saw on the previous screen, it even has rolls to just straight up kill a defensive Gengar that's switching out, which is really nice. It has a fire and burn immunity. Fire is only if it has flash fire as its ability. You might run early bird, which has its own uses. It's not a bad ability by any means. Arguably, it's its best ability versus Gengar because it gives it a chance to wake up early against Hypnosis Gengar, but I still think that there's definitely room for Flash Fire to help you out against Moltres. In either case, because it's a fire type, it can't get burned by Will-O-Wisp, so it can pretty safely switch into a defensive Gengar. I mean, as long as it's not clicking Thunderbolt, that could be a little bit dangerous. And then it has Synergistic Fire Stab, so Umbreon is Mono Dark type, it does not have a secondary type, and Tyranitar has Rock as its second type, which means that it's a mixed attacking dual type. I mean, one of them is a physical, one of them is special. For Houndoom, both of them are special, so you don't have to worry too much about investing in physical attack. You can put it all into special, which is really nice. Some of the cons of Houndoom, though, are that it's walled by Blissey and other bulky waters. Particularly Milotic and Suicune give Houndoom some problems because HP Grass is not a strong enough coverage move to really threaten them. Blissey, you can beat it if you're running Beat Up, but Houndoom is a Pokemon that really values all of its utility and all of its move slots, and it's really hard to pick one to replace with Beat Up. Houndoom is pretty frail. The 75-50 HP defense split is pretty bad, I'll be honest. You're going to die to a lot of strong stab neutral hits, like a meta, or just any coverage Earthquake, like Metagross Earthquake, Snorlax Body Slam or Earthquake, Salaman's Brick Break. All of those things are just so threatening to Houndoom. And then it's also trapped by Dugtrio, which is not fantastic. If your trapper gets trapped, how are you going to trap the trap target on your opponent's team? I hope you followed that. Here's Tyranitar. I mean, most of the stuff you will probably already know. It's got the best mixed attacking of the group. 134 attack is phenomenal, and 95 special attack is definitely workable. Sand Chip, that's just really good. You could argue that this is a minus or a con, but if you're putting Tyranitar on your team, then you are certainly thinking about how sand is going to affect the Pokemon on your team. If you're not, you should be. But yeah, it has a lot of move options. Like it gets Thunder and Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, Fire Blast, Crunch. Well, obviously, because I'm pretty sure all of them get Crunch. But you have Rock Slide, you have Earthquake, you have Dragon Dance, you have Brick Break and Focus Punch, you have Ice. Do you get Ice Beam in this generation? Hold on, we have to check. But other things, Tyranitar's got really good bulk. The 100, 110, 100 is, I mean, like we talk about Pokemon like Celebi and Jirachi being good defensive Pokemon, and Tyranitar just has that with a little bit of extra defense, which is really, really nice. I mean, I don't know what you guys think about the ×4 weakness to fighting, though. It could be pretty hard to switch into certain mixed attackers that are running Brick Break, especially to hit Tyranitar. I did just look it up, and duh, Tyranitar does get Ice Beam. I remember using it on a set, actually, so I don't know why I doubted myself, but in any case, Ice Beam's really good at hitting Dugtrio on switch in. It's one of Tyranitar's only moves that can guarantee a KO if you're a specially oriented Tyranitar. But alas, if you don't have that, if you're not Choice Band Earthquake, you are not usually going to kill the Dugtrio. Sometimes you can if you're adamant, but sometimes Dugtrio will run Bulk to live that, and that's not great. And it can get a huge Earthquake off on you. But here's Umbreon, which is what you were all waiting for. The 95, 110, 130 is a really good split. It's a little bit less HP than Tyranitar, but it kind of makes up for it by having a pretty sizable bump in special defense. 130 is really good. I mean, imagine if Snorlax had that, it would be living like every hit, even though it already kind of does. And frankly, it is a better specially defensive tank if you're talking raw numbers because of how much higher the HP stat is, but I digress. Umbreon gets a lot of utility moves that these other two don't, like Wish and Baton Pass. And Wish and Baton Pass have great synergy that we will talk about later. And Synchronize is an ability. I mean, all of these Pokemon have good abilities, but Synchronize is uniquely good at punishing status spam. There are a lot of Pokemon like Jirachi with Body Slam, or Gengar with Will-O-Wisp, or say Swampert with Toxic, that are throwing those statuses out willy-nilly like there's never a bad click for it, but a Synchronized Umbreon can make them regret it, which is really nice. Now note, Synchronized does not pass Freeze in this generation. So if you're switching into an Ice Beam or an Ice Punch, thinking, yes, I could freeze my opponent, no, that will not work. So that's just something to note if you are trying to fish to get the to pass the freeze for whatever reason. Umbreon's other stats and also its move pool are not great. The 65-60 split on attacks, I guess, makes it a mixed attacker, but like not really, because both of those attack stats are pretty bad. And its mediocre speed means that it's not usually going to be faster than offensive threats. It can be faster than some of the mid-range stuff if you want it to be, but it is still going to struggle against things like your Heracrosses and your Suicunes and your base 100s. So keep that in mind when you're using it as well. But let's talk a little bit more broadly. We're talking about passive damage, which is the primary goal of a Stall team. Doesn't mean that Stall only relies on passive damage, but setting up to get a lot of passive damage is what Stall is basically trying to do. So passive damage refers to damage that's dealt by sources other than physical and special attacks. So that could be from your status moves, usually from your status moves, in fact, like Spikes and Toxic and Will-O-Wisp and Leech Seed. But it could also refer to like Sand from Tyranitar. All of these things are dealing damage over time, generally, and you do not have to click a move to get that damage. I mean, you kind of do, and you have to Toxic something, but once something is toxic, you don't have to click any damaging moves to keep getting damage. Like, you can get a lot of value over the course of a long game from passive damage, which is what why Stall is trying to get it. It's using its defense to drag out the game so that damage over a time effects can deal more damage. TSS, which is a very, very common archetype. You should know about it by now, but we'll show you what it is, basically, if you don't. They thrive on maximizing passive damage. So TSS stands for Tyranitar, Skarmory, and Swampert. Okay, no, it stands for Toxic Sand Spikes, but I knew that somebody who is watching at this point who knows what it means was about to get really mad if I was not going to correct that, and possibly has already left a comment, and if you did, that's really funny. But no, Toxic Sand Spikes teams are using Tyranitar in conjunction with a Spiker and one or multiple Toxic Spammers to rack up passive damage and make it a nightmare for the enemy to switch. So TSS is not inherently a Stall archetype, but it employs a lot of the same strategies that Stall teams do. If you're familiar with Big Five, which is a type of TSS team, it would be these three plus Blissey plus Gengar. Blissey is a very, very common Pokemon on Stall teams, and in fact, Gengar is also pretty usable, and so are these other three. So you could make a TSS Stall team, or a Big Five Stall team even. You can always switch around some of the Pokemon and keep the same idea, though, if you would like. So I'm going to talk about some of the staple Pokemon in a Stall team. It's not going to be a comprehensive list of every Pokemon that you can use on a Stall team, but it's going to get the broad strokes of certain utility, certain roles that you'll see on Stall. So the first one is a Spike Setter. Can you have a Stall team without spikes? Absolutely. I do have a team, which may or may not end up becoming a video. I'll have to see. I'm going to have to make tweaks to that team because I don't think it's great. But I do have a Stall team that relies on getting other forms of passive damage and does not have a spiker. So it's not completely necessary, but it is really, really nice to have. And I'm highlighting Skarmory and Forretress here because they're the two that fit best on a Stall team. Cloyster is technically usable. Smeargle and Quillfish, if you're going really out there for some spikers, also technically usable, but they all lend themselves more to an offensive spike stack. They don't have quite as good of defensive stats. I mean, Cloyster does have a really nice base defense, but its special defense is so low that it is commonly eliminated by good special attackers. So it doesn't have a lot of time to get all of its stuff off. But I mean, I guess in theory you could use it as well. But these are the two that I would recommend, Skarmory and Forretress. Next, we have some walls with longevity. There are other walls that you could use here. Like, take for example, like your, Steelix or Registeel or even Metagross. But a lot of those have to rely on rest and are not quite as good as some of these other ones. And yes, I know that Suicune and Swampert also have to rely on rest as their recovery move. But and Zapdos as well. But all three of them are so good. How could I not mention them, right? But notably, Milotic and Blissey and Celebi all get immediate recover moves. In the case of Milo and Celebi, they get recover. In the case of Blissey, it gets soft boiled. But I also want to highlight Vaporeon and Jirachi as they get Wish. So there's another kind of archetype or sub-archetype within this umbrella here called Clerics. Clerics, they are generally trying to do something to heal a member of your team. That could mean having Wish to pass extra HP to a weakened Pokemon on your team, or just facilitate a safe switch. Or they could have Heal Bell or Aromatherapy to cure status on your team. Both of those are things that are indicative of a cleric, and I'm going to loosely use the term to describe any Pokemon that has access to Wish or Heal Bell or Aromatherapy. Another thing that you would like on a stall team is a spinner. It's not completely necessary. You can certainly do like a Superman version of stall, or you could find other ways to play around spikes. But a spinner is really nice because stall Pokemon or stall teams love to switch between their defensive Pokemon to make it hard for offensive teams to break them. So your spinners of choice might be a Def Me or a defensive Starmie. It might be Claydol, it might be Fortress even. You could kind of do some role consolidation with the Fortress, which again we'll probably talk about later. And then finally we have Trappers. So Dugtrio, you might be thinking, well, how is Dugtrio on a stall team? Like Dugtrio, it's like a hit and run revenge kill type Pokemon, but just like offense teams, stall teams don't like certain Pokemon, particularly Tyranitar. Tyranitar can be really scary if it gets a bunch of Dragon Dances off, and with Rock Slide, threatening flinches on things like your Milotic, you really don't like to deal with Tyranitar. And there are also some stall teams that do not like to have sand on them. Pokemon like Celebi really appreciate getting leftovers recovery, Suicune and Zapdos as well. It means that they can delay having to use their rest or recover, or you could maybe even get away with not having recover on Celebi, instead just having Leech Seed if you can eliminate sand to make sure that that's not a problem. And Dugtrio can facilitate clearing the weather as well because it gets sunny day, but there are a lot of other Pokemon on a stall team that can afford to give up a move slot for the purpose of weather clearing. Porygon is there to counter-track Dugtrio. Dugtrio likes to target a lot of these stall Pokemon, particularly Blissey, because some teams otherwise cannot handle some of these Pokemon. Again, primarily Blissey. So Porygon can be an option on a stall team to punish Dugtrio teams. It's not the most common, but I definitely wanted to mention it here. And then, of course, we talked about Tyranitar and Umbreon as Pursuit Trappers. As for the other Pursuit Trappers, they tend to fit better on offensive teams, particularly ones that are trying to set up 3 layers of spikes, get rid of spikes from their side of the field, and then just slam buttons with bulkier setup sweepers like your Metagross, like your Snorlax or Tyranitar, etc. They prefer not to take that spikes damage because they're designed to live 1 or 2 hits so that they can get their stat boosts up. But yeah, I mean, so these Pokemon, Tyranitar and Umbreon, can still do that same type of thing on a stall team, but they're going to be good at facilitating removal from your spinners so that you can keep your team healthy going into the late game. Like, the ideal scenario for a stall team is that you still have all 6 of your Pokemon while your opponent is losing Pokemon turn by turn. So it's really nice to not have to deal with spikes for that, and Pursuit Trappers facilitate that. So let's talk more specifically now about Umbreon and a certain stall core that I've noticed is pretty popular on Umbreon teams. Now, granted, Umbreon is not a supremely popular Pokemon, but it does get used by some tournament players who are trying to do some type of stall idea, or possibly like a semi-stall if you prefer to have a little bit more offensive pressure. But as ABR said, Umbreon is uniquely capable of handling Gengar, because it can punish Gengar for going for Will-O-Wisp. Not every Gengar team can afford to fit a Heal Bell Pokemon, and Gengar, if it is, say, if it's burned, it is really, really bad at taking on special walls, particularly Blissey. Gengar's only way to threaten big damage on Blissey is Explosion, and burning it halves that damage. It also means that Blissey can just stay in and like passively click recover moves, set up utility for its team, while Gengar is sitting there doing like basically like 20 damage max with crit Thunderbolt. So because Umbreon is so good at handling Gengar, you can afford to have a spinner on your team, especially one who is weak to Gengar. So like you don't necessarily have to run Claydol or like Psychic on your Starmie to facilitate an easy spin, or like say HP Ghost on Fortress. You can just rely on Umbreon to remove the Gengar so that you can get like super safe spins with something like Fortress, and this is what we're kind of doing here. Fortress consolidates the roles of Spiker and Spinner. There are very few Pokemon in the game that can do that. Cloyster is pretty much the only other one, at least the only other notably viable one at doing that. But Fortress is also really, really scared of Gengar. It doesn't like to get Will-O-Wisp. Gengar will sometimes run Fire Punch, which threatens an OHKO on Fortress. And Fortress, if it doesn't have HP Ghost, has no move to hit Gengar. I guess it could have Zap Cannon, but generally, like, your Counter, Earthquake, Hidden Power, Bug are doing absolutely nothing to Gengar, while it is basically farming you. Especially if you're on a sandless team, Gengar can just get all of its health back with leftovers against a Fortress. But the roll compression provided by Fortress is really nice because it can get us another team slot for status healing cleric. Umbreon has Wish, but it does not have Heal Bell, so it cannot be like the sole cleric of your team. What's really cool is Blissey has access to both Wish and Heal Bell, but due to like weirdness with move compatibility, it basically has to do with what moves are legally possible to have in an in-game cartridge setting. You are not able to get Wish and Heal Bell or Aromatherapy on your Blissey, and thank you to whoever in the comments pointed that out when I said in the last video that you can't have Wish and Heal Bell. You also can't have Wish and Aromatherapy. So that's good to know. And then with this sort of team, which we will have a little visual indicator so you can know who we're talking about here. You would like to have Fighting and Rock Resists, but there are plenty of Pokemon that can handle switching into Fighting and Rock type moves. That this is definitely usable for a stall core. It is really nice to also not have to have Tyranitar or Skarmory, because there's so many Pokemon that are specifically designed to handle those two Pokemon that are not necessarily designed to handle Fortress and Umbreon. So there's a little bit of a matchup fishing element to this. Not like super duper hard, but that can be nice in some settings. So, well, let's talk about some standard Umbreon sets. So this is the Mean Look plus Baton Pass set. The idea is that you Mean Look your opponent so that they can't switch, and then you Baton Pass, which preserves that idea so that you can go to a Pokemon that handles them really well, like say like a Calm Mind Suicune, and Calm Mind up to +6 and then just easily win the game by sweeping. Except that's banned. You can't do that anymore. So yeah, you don't do that. It's not allowed to trap and Baton Pass. Partially because of Umbreon, partially because of other Pokemon like Smeargle, who also abused that type of thing. Baton Pass went through a lot of changes, which I don't necessarily have the expertise to comment on, but yeah, just know that you can't do this anymore, which is really funny because this is the first set that pops up on Smogon, so that tells you how much they're thinking about Umbreon when they update this stuff. Instead, you could use this set, which is using basically the same EVs, and replaces Baton Pass with Toxic. So the idea now is that you trap one Pokemon in, especially a Toxic weak Pokemon, and you inflict them with Toxic, and then you can spam Taunt to keep them from being able to heal themselves or refresh. It's really, really adept at taking on things like Milotic and Swampert, whose best way to deal with a Toxic is to either switch to a Cleric or use Refresh, and you can completely shut them down. And they can't do much to you to stop that. They would have to get their Toxic off on you and then pray that you'll die before they do. But Umbreon is a cheeky little goblin that can use Protect or Taunt to stop them from being able to even Toxic you. So that's quite nice, actually. I don't know. It's not super duper easy to pull this off. You will have to get a turn or two right against these Pokemon to make this work, or you'll have to be up against a version of them that is not running Toxic themselves. What's kind of nice is that with Synchronize, if they manage to land the Toxic on you, then you will still get the Toxic on them. You just have to make sure that you're at higher HP than they are if you're going to rely on that sort of thing. But yeah, the speed here is faster than Adamant Tyranitar. I don't think you're going to be able to effectively trap that sort of Tyranitar, but you are going to need a lot of speed investment to make sure that you can pull this trick off on the bulky waters. And being it faster than an Adamant Tyranitar and getting a Toxic or a Taunt off on it could be really nice. So I guess that's why you would do this, but I think you could go as slow as maybe 211, 213, just to make sure you're faster than Suicune, and that you can still do this sort of strategy against it. Some other sets that you'll see on the Smogon page are a Wish Passer and Curse Baton Pass. They're both pretty similar. They have the same bulk, which I tried my hardest to figure out what this is for, and I came to a pretty close conclusion, but it's slightly more than you need for those things. At least in defense, I don't know exactly what they're for, and if anybody can elucidate that for me, I would very much appreciate that. But needless to say, I'm going to show you a Tetrafolium original set after this, so please be excited for that. Yeah, they're basically the same type of thing with a healing move and Baton Pass. Wish Passer is more concerned with trying to safely pass the wish to something, and that's why it's running minimum speed. The idea is you will hit wish, and then you will Baton Pass, and the opponent will outspeed your Umbreon and hit your Umbreon so that whatever comes in will not take that damage and get the wish HP. This can be really, really nice at facilitating, offensive Pokemon that don't have great ways to heal themselves up, like Snorlax, so that they can get a new lease on life to start harassing your opponent's team once again. You could also use Substitute and try to pass that as well. If you're using Substitute, you definitely want to have as much HP as possible. Just in case you end up against I don't know, level 95 Blissey using Seismic Toss. Yeah, no, Umbreon unfortunately does not get the 404 substitutes that everybody loves. So you will have a substitute broken by Seismic Toss, which is very unfortunate. But it's okay, though. You still want to have a lot of HP investments so that you have really good mixed bulk, which is what Umbreon is really, really nice for. And then this is if you want to pass Curse to something. There are a lot of bulky Pokemon that can use Curse very effectively. Honestly, Metagross is not a bad idea for that. I mean, it does like to have some speed to outspeed certain things, but if you're getting it to like +2, +3, it can stomach enough hits to make that work. So that's really nice. Moonlight is preferred on this for more immediate healing. It is basically Recover, but it has slight differences in the weather. Unfortunately, Sand makes Moonlight heal less. At least I'm pretty sure it does. It certainly does in other generations. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. So it's not ideal, but it is definitely a good burst option for this type of set. But let's see. Basically, the problem that I have with this is that none of these are good at trapping Gengar. And I was gassing Umbreon up as a good pursuit trapper earlier, so let's see what I have to say about this. So here is my set, which has fairly similar bulk to the previous sets that we just looked at. It has 4 less EVs in HP and 8 less in defense. What I've determined is that this Umbreon is designed to live 2 +1 or Choice Band boosted Rock Slides from Tyranitar, as well as HP Flyings from Salamence. I believe you will also live 2 Meteor Mashes from Metagross, most of the time, if it's not Choice Banded especially. I should note that both Tar and Mence will run Brick Break, and Tar will very commonly run Hidden Power Bug. Mence, I guess, in theory could, but it doesn't because it wants the Flying Stab. And both of those deal more damage than the aforementioned Rock Slide and HP Flying. So they can 2-hit KO Umbreon. It's not even guaranteed, which is kind of nice, but they can get there, so keep that in mind, that you might not be super duper safe into Tyranitar and Salamence. You're also not super duper threatening to them either, so you're giving them opportunities to Dragon Dance on you, which you don't necessarily want, but it is nice to live a hit and then get the Toxic off, especially for endgame situations. You'll also live an unboosted Adamant Focus Punch plus Sand from Tyranitar with this. So if they catch you at full health, you don't have to lose your entire Umbreon for it. Now, you'll lose a lot of your Umbreon for it, but you might still be able to get your Toxic off and maybe later in the game Wish Up. Not very likely, to be honest, but it's possible. You'll live 2 Adamant Choice Band Earthquakes from Dugtrio. Not always after Sand, sometimes, but you will always live 2 Jolly Earthquakes after Sand, so that's pretty nice. We have enough special attack here to KO the defensive Gengar with 2 switch outs and 2 turns of burn. So yeah, that is asking a lot, but there are a lot of times where Umbreon can come in on a Will-O-Wisp from Gengar, Gengar thinking it being the best mid-ground play to make. So you will get a tick of burn damage there. It'll switch, you can Pursuit it, and then it'll come back in, take a turn of burn damage, and you can go immediately to Umbreon, and if they don't switch or explode, then they're going to get hit with another Pursuit and die. If the Gengar tries to play around your pursuits by instead clicking Thunderbolt, it is doing absolutely no damage because we put the rest of it in, or the rest of our EV investment into special defense. So, and we have a monster special defense stat. So we are pretty safe against Gengar, all things considered. Do be careful about the Choice Band Focus Punch set, which is really, really evil. And also, you want to be careful about Destiny Bond. Now, the nice thing about Pursuit is most of its damage is dealt if the Gengar is switching. And if Gengar is switching, it's not going to have Destiny Bond. Or at least it will not be clicking Destiny Bond that turn. So, you are not too terribly caught off guard by that. If you have Gengar really low and dying to burn damage, then you also really don't have to worry about Destiny Bond, because I'm pretty sure, anyway, that Pokemon that die to passive damage that have Destiny Bond active do not take their opponent with them. So you could run min speed on this Umbreon if you would like. I don't think that there's too much utility in that. There is sometimes an argument for being slow so that you can get your wish off after, or your wish will activate after an additional bit of chip. Although I guess when you think about it, you're gonna take 2 attacks anyway, so it's maybe not that worth it. Maybe there's an argument for you want to be slower than certain status inducing Pokemon so that you can synchronize back their status to them, which might be more valuable than Toxic. I can't think of any Will-O-Whispers that are that slow. Maybe like Dusclops. But I'm not even sure if you'll underspeed that anyway. So yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of utility actually in running a completely minimum speed Umbreon here. You could try to be slower than certain things, I guess, but generally I think that this no investment Umbreon is probably just a little better. You would like to outspeed some things to get the Toxic off sooner, I guess. So yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter. Its speed stat is pretty superfluous. So what are we going to do with this Umbreon? What team are we going to have here? So this is, I don't know if anybody has coined this. I'm definitely not the first person to think of this core, obviously. In fact, this team was kind of inspired by an ABR team that I saw. It has, I believe, 5 of the same 6 Pokemon on it. ABR is actually a believer in slacking on this team, but I don't really like slacking, and I also don't think I would play very well with it, so I opted instead to have a utility Celebi. And I'm calling this Buff Stall. Buff meaning Blissey, Umbreon, and Fortress. If this catches on, that would be cool. If you want to switch out the Fortress for Skarmory, you can call it Bus Stall, I guess. But I'm calling this Buff Stall. So definitely use this in conversation as if people will know what you're talking about. That would be really funny. The idea with this team is basically we're going to, again, maximize our passive damage, but we don't have a Sand Setter, so that's why I kind of like Celebi to have Leech Seed there. We have a defensive Zapdos who has Toxic on it as well. I do like the standard Ref Zapdos set with a little bit less special defense, so I can outspeed Swamperts and Magnetons consistently. But We're basically ripping that set, but I thought that this team, even despite having the Celebi, is a little bit shaky against Swampert. So instead of Roar, I have HP Grass on Zapdos, and I swapped Roar over to my Swampert set. Um, you can try to run this without Roar. I think that's fine. You could do a Sleep Talk Zapdos. I think that's kind of underrated as a set. But your mileage is going to vary, and then certain matchups are going to be a little easier or harder if you do stuff like that. Another thing I've thought about with this team is the Celebi running Perish Song. That would kind of eliminate my dire need to have Roar to stop things like Suicune from getting out of hand, or to stop like Ninjask Baton Pass teams. But I would kind of miss having Recover or a coverage move on Celebi, so I didn't opt for that. But I do want to see somebody try that. So if you try out this team, which I'll have pasted in the description, maybe try Parasong Celebi and tell me how it goes. But we are using Umbreon. I'm gonna note here that I did have a version of this team with a lead Regirock. It was in place of Celebi, so the Swampert was not the lead. Both of those lead ideas are similar in that we're trying to stop a DD Tyranitar from getting too crazy on us at the beginning of the game. But I decided that Regirock was not great for this team because that makes us have 3 fighting weak Pokemon, and Zapdos is the only resist, and like the team is way too inconsistent at taking on any team that has like a Medicham or like a Machamp or even Heracross on it. Albeit Heracross does have moves to basically hit this entire team. Not every Heracross is going to have like a fighting move or Rock Slide. If you want to know about some strange Heracross sets, you should check out my Heracross video that I made a week ago or so. But I digress once again. Yeah, too weak to fighting types with the Regirock version, but because I had some pretty good demonstrations of what Umbreon can do and what Stall is trying to do in general, I'm going to show it off anyway. And as you can imagine, we're almost an hour in already, and I'm going to show you some Stall games, so this might get a little bit long, so strap in for that. I will try to put on some nice battle music here. This is it's battle music from Pokemon Colosseum. Pokemon Colosseum's a great game, by the way. I'm excited to see players try it for the first time when it's out on the Switch 2, on Nintendo Switch Online. And I definitely think you should play it if you have not played it before. It's kind of cool that it's like centered around double battles, mostly. So it's quite nice. But in any case, let's take a look at this. So this is going to be the Regirock version of the team, which does lead it better against Zapdos. I can Rock Slide to break the sub, and I will be threatening a KO here. Wisely Baton passes. I go for Rock Slide instead of Thunder Wave because I'm not trying to let this Zapdos get a substitute off. Metagross is a little bit dangerous, but I can switch to Fortress, and I roll up into a Ninjask team. I hate Ninjask. On this version of the team, I have Hidden Power Ghost, so I am able to break the substitute with Fortress. I believe on the team paste description, or the team paste that I have in the description, it might be HP Bug. You can kind of go either way. I think Ghost definitely has its merit, and it was really nice at stopping this Ninjask from being able to do a lot of crazy things to me. I will go to Blissey. This is a substitute Suicune though, so I can't stop the Suicune from setting up with Seismic Toss. So I have to go to Zapdos, and it has Ice Beam. And I'm not doing a lot of damage with Thunderbolt, and I kind of need I kind of need my Zapdos, so I decide to cut my losses, go back to Blissey, and we're just going to Seismic Toss through and hopefully beat this. My opponent does not go for another substitute here, which I'm a little confused by. Maybe they don't have enough HP on their Suicune, but I can't imagine you would run substitute on a Suicune that does not have max HP. They could have probably beat my Blissey and then probably swept my team, honestly, with that. But they don't have enough sauce, so I'm cool. Regirock is going to live 2 Thunderbolts from this timid Zapdos here, so I can just Rock Slide through, and I'm fine to just take Chip on Metagross. I still have pretty good switches. My Fortress is at full health. Meteor Mash not doing anything to me. So I can go ahead and get all my other spikes up, which would hopefully put me in range to beat whatever the Ninjask is going to pass to next. I'm kind of anticipating a Marowak, which is the reason why I'm opting to go Fortress instead of Swampert as my Metagross answer, because Fortress is a little bit more expendable, so I don't have to lose the game to Marowak at the end, if Marowak is there. Now I'm going to show off the Umbreon. Because Blissey is pretty low, I can't reliably use it to check Zapdos here. I can go to Regirock here with his Wish Pass, and there is a Marowak. I have to break this substitute. So I'm going for Focus Punch because my only 2 attacking moves are Rock Slide, Focus Punch. Rock Slide will not break the sub, and I cannot let this thing Swords Dance. It instead goes for Ancient Power, which is kind of brutal. If it gets the boost here, I'm really, really screwed. But Swampert can just come in and Surf and get rid of that substitute. I have to Protect here to live the next Earthquake. If my opponent clicked Swords Dance, it was basically over for me. But yeah, I could not lose the Swampert at that juncture. I do get to keep it alive, and the Ninjask reveals Hidden Power, either Bug or Flying. I'm not sure at this point which one. But I can go to Zapdos here. I don't have Roar, so I'm going to have to T-Bolt through to make sure that this Ninjask cannot pass a substitute to whatever's last. And the last is Magneton, who's actually not that scary for me. So I will go to Umbreon. It substitutes, and it's Pataya Berry, which is very, very strange. Not a common set at all. I'm going to Wish here, and I'm just going to have to Pursuit through this substitute to make sure that this Magneton doesn't do anything crazy. If it kills my Umbreon, it's possibly going to kill my Blissey. I think it's a roll, actually. It might also depend on whether it's Modest or not. But yeah, I cannot afford that. Also, if the Magneton paralyzes me with Thunderbolt, because of Synchronize, I will paralyze it back, which means that I negate the speed boost that it has. In fact, I do even more than that. It'll be slower than all of my other Pokemon at this point, which is really nice. So at this point, if Umbreon dies, I can go to either Blissey or Zapdos, probably Blissey, and threaten to kill this Magneton. I could also get my HP back with Blissey, which is why I say that. But I don't have to sack my Umbreon here. If I get good Paraluck, I can just Baton Pass Wish and Protect my way back to good HP. So I will have a sack later in case I need it against Zapdos. Could also be nice to pass Wishes to my Zapdos so I don't have to rest. And I could even Heal Bell with Blissey to get rid of this paralysis on my Umbreon. My opponent decides that it's not worth it to stay in with this Magneton anymore and switches to Ninjask. Goes for Hidden Power. Still don't know if it's Bug or Flying. Probably Bug if you were willing to click it into Umbreon there. But goes for another one. I guess trying to catch my Umbreon coming back in. But also, like, Zapdos is not a hugely great recipient of the speed boost because it either kills my Zapdos or it doesn't. It will not. in fact. But I'm not going to risk that, and I know this Zapdos is whole set, so I can go to Umbreon, threaten to Wish, and I will protect. My opponent goes for Substitute. I probably should have went Blissey to punish that. This Zapdos is not guaranteed to kill my Blissey, but I don't want to risk like a crit or anything. So I'm going to do the same idea that I was doing against the Magneton, and just Wish and protect my way up and try to annoy this Zapdos. It's probably not the best strategy because I'm not making much progress. Even if I can break the Substitute with 2 back-to-back pursuits, I will not be able to necessarily threaten to kill the Zapdos before I run out of pursuits. So instead I engineer a situation where I can Wish, and then I will die to the next Thunderbolt, so that Blissey can come in and get the Wish, so I'm not risking dying to crit. And now this is pretty academic at this point, because Seismic Toss will break the sub. Zapdos cannot kill me. Not even close. Even if it gets a para on me, I can Heal Bell it away. It's getting a little bit dangerous at this low HP. If I get crit full para, that could be bad. So I do go for the Wish. Good thing or the Soft Boiled, excuse me. Good thing I did, because I get crit immediately the next turn. And now this is pretty academic, like I just said. My opponent decides to sack the Magneton. Sacking is differential and then forfeited the game, which is kind of funny, honestly. But yeah, Blissey, very dangerous in the last slot, or in the end game situation. And not even like Calm Mind boosting up to 10 million and sweeping the team. Just my opponent did not have a Pokemon that could handle the Blissey anymore. So all I had to do was Seismic Toss until I killed the Zapdos, and I would have won. But my opponent, again, forfeits, and I win anyway. As you see, I'm at pretty low elo compared to some of my other videos. It was not easy for me to land on this team. I think that Fortress is a pretty difficult spinner to use. Well, spinner for sure, but also a pretty difficult spiker. And I had a lot of failed Fortress teams before I landed on this one, and even this one with Regirock I'm considering a failure because it gets absolutely body bagged by a fighting type. So yeah, needless to say, I lost a lot of games, but it was a learning experience, and we're here now. We know how to use Fortress, and it's on the buff stall. So here comes Regirock again as the lead versus Metagross. This time I'm going to switch to Swampert because I don't know what he has in the back, and Swampert is generally the best at threatening Metagross. It's also the best into any sort of agility Metagross, or like the choice banded Metagross. Gengar comes in, and I will go to Umbreon and Pursuit, and I do a lot of damage there. Now, I will admit that this is not the same Umbreon set that I showed you guys. It has the same 4 moves, but it does not have nearly as much special attack investment. If I had that special attack investment, I actually would have killed that Gengar straight up. But leaving it on 4 is really nice. It means that my opponent cannot switch to Tyranitar if they have it. They're also a little scared of me going to a Tyranitar if I have it. I could have clicked HP. I don't remember if I switched to Ghost or Bug at that point to catch the Gengar switching in. But instead, I would just go to Umbreon and kill the Gengar. So this is important to note, and especially early in a game like this on turn 8, removing the Gengar. If you see Gengar, you have to go Umbreon. Now, okay, not necessarily. If your opponent double switches to something that can beat Umbreon, then you don't necessarily like to be in with your Umbreon. And with this version of the team that has Regirock and a slightly chipped Swampert, like a switch to Heracross would be devastating for me. But Umbreon has to get rid of the Gengar. You can't let the Gengar stick around. Even if you're like if you're a burned Umbreon from the Will-O-Wisp, and you don't, it's a defensive Gengar, you don't get the kill. You can't rely on other Pokemon on this team to get the kill on Gengar. HP Grass or Giga Drain is too threatening into Swampert. Fire Punch is too threatening into Fortress. It can do annoying things to your Blissey, and also Blissey is not a terribly difficult Pokemon to switch into, especially this Blissey that does not have Thunder Wave or Ice Beam. So you have to eliminate the Gengar. And I promise this is a quick game, which is why I spent so much time harping on that here. But, had I not killed that Gengar, we might not have been able to make progress here. So this Tyranitar, it's DD with HP Grass, possibly a Tetrafolium subscriber here, because I did show that set off in a recent video, but absolutely not. It's not a super duper uncommon set. Raikou comes in, very cool, but also completely countered by my Blissey. I go for Sing. I think according to BKC, that's a suggestion of Ostamatidos. I could be wrong. I could have my players confused, and if I'm wrongly attributing Sing Blissey to Ostamatidos, not giving credit to another player, then I'm very sorry about that. But I also saw this set used by ABR, and I think it's kind of cool because Sing, if you get to sleep on something, like you can completely ruin your opponent's momentum. It is a little scary, like in the last, or not in the last game, in a game we're about to see, Gengar absolutely walls the Blissey. Now, if you have Umbreon healthy, you can stop the Gengar from being able to do that, but as we'll see in that game, a little foreshadowing, maybe Umbreon was not perfect at taking that out. Lead Metagross, and this time I'm with the Celebi team, so I have lead Swampert. Swampert's really good into Metagross. I do go for Protect there to scout the Houdini. Houdini being a turn 1 explosion, trying to catch Skarmory coming in. I reveal a Weezing here, which is really interesting. I don't necessarily want to get Toxic on Swampert because I have to go to... I don't recall if I'm... Actually, I don't recall if I'm Refresh or not. I might be, I might not be. I move my moves around, so... but in any case, I do happen to be Refresh on this particular battle. But Weezing can sometimes have Hidden Power Grass, and I didn't necessarily want to take that. I do end up taking it anyway, but my opponent reveals Dugtrio on Zapdos. A little bit strange, I think, to go to Dugtrio on Zapdos. It is nice to absorb the T-Bolt, though. Now that I'm done yapping about what happened 5 turns ago, let's continue this battle. Weezing is going to Toxic spam. I'm going to T-Bolt it here. If I get Pain Splitted, fair play, but I am Spadef Zapdos, so I'm not going to take much from Weezing special attacks. I go for Rest here to get rid of the Poison, and then I will go to Umbreon because I take Dugtrio's hits pretty well. That was a crit Earthquake, and I was like, that does suspiciously low damage, and then my opponent switches up to HP Bug, which is kind of interesting. So that's not a Choice Banded Dugtrio. So I'm actually not very scared of it into my Blissey, especially if I can spread some more Toxics to stop Beat Up from being able to do anything. So I go to Blissey to tank the... Fire Blast, which misses, and then I double switch to the Swampert to stop Metagross or Dugtrio from being able to come in and freely click moves. Because the Dugtrio's not choice banded, I'm not really taking any damage from Earthquake, so I'm quite advantaged in that spot. But instead the Weezing comes in, so I have to switch. So I'll go to Celebi, which takes an HP grass very well. I'm threatening a Psychic. My opponent goes to Dugtrio, but because this is not Banded Dugtrio, it's got no chance in hell to kill me, even if it crit. I crit, actually. And then I just go for Psychic again, so I don't reveal too many of the moves on my set. Metagross comes in on a double switch. Very well played by my opponent, but I also have a Fortress in. I believe that is choice banded damage, but because it locked into Meteor Mash, I can pretty safely get a spike up. I'll go to Umbreon here. At this point, I'm pretty scared of Weezing blowing up my Blissey, or potentially my Swampert. So I'm trying to make plays that are safe around Explosion. I'll go to Blissey here, so that my Umbreon doesn't take too much toxic damage, but I'll go back to Umbreon on a predicted Explosion, but my opponent goes for Toxic. So now I'll go back to Blissey, and at this stage, I'm going to check one more time, but I'm pretty sure that this doesn't have Explosion. But I have pretty safe switches into everything. It goes for a choice banded Brick Break. That is kind of wild. But I will go for Zapdos here to burn a sleep turn. Tyranitar finally comes in. I should mention that Tyranitar could work in the place of Umbreon if you want a sand version of this team. But like, for example, Celebi kind of prefers for there not to be sand. I have to go Celebi there to kind of stop Tyranitar from getting too crazy with its DDs. It could have DD'd again. It would have taken a big HP Grass for its troubles if it did, and then it would be forced to kill my my Celebi. And then I could go to Swampert. Swampert is still pretty good odds to live a +2 Earthquake. And if it's +1, I should always live. I should mention +2 Earthquake if I get another turn of leftovers by protecting. A little bit dangerous, but could happen for me. I will protect here just to get a Toxic Chip and also get my leftovers back. This is why Protect is such a good move. I actually noticed that this Moltres does not have leftovers. I didn't notice that before, but it's kind of interesting. And it's not like Pataya Berry or anything. On its turn where it goes out here, Will-O-Wisp and I Heal Bell, which is really funny. I Heal Bell to get rid of Sleep on Zapdos and Toxic on Umbreon, but it worked out pretty well for me there. That is a Hidden Power. I'm assuming Hidden Power Rock, so I will go to Umbreon so I can get a Wish. And that's the kind of thing you want to do with this team, is you want to go to Pokemon that can get you progress or reverse your opponent's progress. Umbreon is really good at reversing progress because it can Wish and pass that to anything on the team that switches in well to whatever's in. Even if my opponent makes a good switch to like Metagross there, like I'll still get all my HP back on Blissey. Granted, Blissey didn't have much chip on it, so it's not too crazy. But at this point, I'm going to fish for Sing so I can clean this game up. And when the Metagross is asleep, my opponent will forfeit. Yeah, so that was a pretty good game. I only had to sack my Celebi to the Tyranitar, so that's pretty nice. Not super duper 100% in terms of how it was played. If my opponent went for another Dragon Dance, I could have been in trouble. Or if it was a Dragon Dance Hidden Power Grass, it could have been bad. But if it was Hidden Power Grass, it probably wouldn't have killed my Celebi. I could have gotten a Recover or a Leech Seed off, so that would have been pretty nice for me. So last game here. I believe this is the most recent of all the games that I played. So this is where the team is looking a little bit more similar to what it is in the pace. I still don't think I actually switched my Umbreon EVs. I haven't done as much testing with that set as I probably should before I presented it, but I still think it's really nice, and it's similar enough to the bulk that we had on the previous Umbreon that I'm okay with it. The only attack that, in theory, could 2-hit KO you that I could find, as far as a special attack goes, is Moltres Overheat, but because it loses the special attack from that, I don't think you'll even die to that, so that's pretty good. At least in 2 hits, I should say. So we have a Surf Starmie that generally is an indicator of Death Me, but some offensive Starmie will run that as well. I could have probably calced to see. That is a lot of damage, actually, on Blissey, 18%. It's pretty nasty. Tyranitar is not going to be able to do crap to my Swampert. I get a crit, which is pretty lucky because I don't kill without the crit, but I would have certainly killed on the next hit there. And I think Swampert's HP is a little bit expendable in this against this kind of team. Jolteon gonna Baton Pass to Skarmory, who's gonna take the Psychic pretty well. But I get a drop, which is really nice, and I can also go for Leech Seed pretty freely. My opponent does switch. I don't know, are they scared of Leech Seed, or were they scared of an HP Fire? If they were scared of HP Fire, why did they go Metagross? In any case, because Swampert's low, I'll have to go to Fortress to stop Metagross from doing anything, and it just booms. It's not Choice Banded Boom, by the way. If it was Choice Banded Boom, it would have killed my Fortress. I'll go to Umbreon here to soak up a hit, and I get a Pursuit off on the switching out Starmie. So this is one of the rare examples of Umbreon getting a Pursuit off on something that isn't Gengar. And I did a really nice amount of damage there. I don't believe I had my special attack investment, but I did calc it after the fact, and I would not have killed the Starmie, even with that extra bit. It only pushes the rolls maybe 4 or 5% more, so it's not, again, not super duper different from what the set that I presented is not super different from the set that I ended up playing with here. It's just the same EVs as the Wish Passer, which if you ever see me get outsped by on this Umbreon, and you're like, that's kind of crazy that you got outsped. Like they must have some speed investment. I think I forgot to switch the IVs at this point. Just kind of funny. But because it's similar enough, I'm justified in presenting here. I go for a Toxic, predicting a Jolteon switch. If the Skarmory stayed in and Toxic, I was still fine. I was getting Leech Seed Chip, and I can always rest with this Zapdos. The only thing that's really that threatening to me is Starmie if it has Surf. So I can just get my rest off here on this Jolteon and it will die, which is really nice. Except I get crit! No! Oh well, it doesn't really matter. I'll go Umbreon here so that I can threaten to Wish. It might end up revealing whatever the last is. It does not, which tells me that I'm pretty safe to go for Wish here. I do get Toxic for my troubles, but I can always go for a Protect here to make sure that I get this HP. I will take some extra Toxic Chip, but Starmie decides to come in. It goes for Surf, which does a pretty decent amount to me, but I can always Pursuit and kill this. If it had Recover, I might have been in a little bit of trouble and had to switch out, but I'm fine here. But my opponent gets this chip on Umbreon so that they can go to Gengar in the last slot. I probably should have saw Gengar coming on a Skarmory Spikes team, but I actually was a little bit surprised there. So I can't really switch this Umbreon out because it will die to Spikes. Actually, let's check that. Yeah, 24%. I will die to 3 layers of Spikes. And Fortress cannot really come back into spin because every time Fortress comes in, it could be a switch to Gengar. And I don't want to have to make the 50-50 HP Ghost play if I'm not even sure if I have it still. Maybe I do, but it's not going to get me much in terms of generating momentum to get the spin. Because Gengar will live and then will certainly kill my really low health Fortress at that point. So I decided to just let the Umbreon go. I'll take the chip. This is chip that Gengar will not be able to get back. So it might help me out later for my Celebi. I'll go to Blissey first because I can get a Sing off, but it's a taunt Gengar, and this is really annoying. This is like the only Gengar set that can really like save my opponent. I'll go for a Seismic Toss so that the Skarmory can't come back in and so that I can burn the taunt. So I can get a slightly safer switch back to Celebi in case this has Ice Punch or Fire Punch. I will live an Ice Punch or Fire Punch from this range as long as I don't get crit. So I go for Psychic, thinking that if I kill this Gengar, I'll easily win with the rest of my Pokemon. If Skarmory comes in, I get a fast recover off, so I'm not too hurt by that. I'll go for Leech Seed here to generate progress on the Skarm, and if it goes for Roar, then it can heal up one of my Pokemon, which is really nice here. With Swampert, I can go for a Surf and get more chip on the Gengar. Very nice. I will Protect here to see what the Gengar goes for, and its last move is Giga Drain. That's kind of interesting, the T-Bolt Giga Drain Gengar. Probably scared of water types, but for that, and while I could have gotten a safe switch to Celebi, I'll actually sack the Fortress there. It helps me out against like crit, para, stuff like that could have happened. Taking an extra switch to Celebi, I would have been fine to switch into Giga Drain, but I just want to play super safe so I don't choke this endgame. That's the one thing that is a little bit of a problem with Stall, is the endgame is not autopilot. If you let your opponent claw back in by getting like a boost or a crit on something that you didn't expect, like my Zapdos there, then your opponent might be able to win or come back and win. So I'm trying to play really safe here. I get roared into Blissey, which is kind of nice. That's a really low amount of HP back from the Leech Seed. But I can go for Sing. If Gengar switches in and gets sung, it's basically over, because Celebi will be super duper free. If the Skarmory stays in, then it's significantly reduced in its effectiveness to stop my Celebi from winning the game. I can pretty safely go to Celebi. I get Will-O-Wisp, which is frankly like not that dangerous, and I will go for Psychic because at this stage Skarmory is going to die to 2 Psychics if I want to, and it has to burn a Sleep turn, so I'm pretty safe to just recover if I want it. But my opponent decides to go leave the Gengar in and just die to Psychic. So I win that game not too badly there. It would have been a much almost a blowout if I got the rest off on my Zapdos. But yeah, there you go. So this Umbreon got a lot of value in pursuing that Starmie and getting some wishes off. Even when it didn't get the Gengar, which is kind of what it's designed to do. So that's pretty much it. That's all I have to say. The music is cut out here, so we're kind of just left alone with our thoughts and our words here. But if you made it this far, I would appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe. Every little bit helps for this channel to grow. If you're here from Zets, welcome. I love Zets content as well, so I watch a lot of his videos when he puts them out. So I was actually recently featured in his replay of the week, which is really cool. So yeah, if you're here again, welcome. And yeah, definitely give this team a try. If you, I know Zets said, and if he's watching at this point, hello, that he's not super familiar with Stall, that nobody has taught him how to play. And while I'm not an expert, I hope that this is maybe an idea, Zets, for you if you want to try it. And also anybody else who feels similarly. Um, not too hard to pilot this team, honestly. Just make sure that you don't sack the Blissey too early, which is uh, a rule of thumb for life, frankly. So yeah. All right, I'm done stalling this outro, so I'm gonna end the video now. So thanks once again for watching.